Just hours left before people across Britain cast their votes to elect a new government and Prime Minister. The United Kingdom voters will cast their ballots in a national election on Thursday, the 4th of July, passing judgment on the current Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's 20 months in office and on the 4 Conservative Prime Ministers before him who have been in power over the last 14 years. Almost every opinion poll suggests Sunak's Tories are headed for a wipeout and the voters are set to elect a Labour government. But Sunak, who has been in office since October 2022, has been putting up a rather brave front. During a hectic final 2 days of campaigning, the Prime Minister insisted that the outcome of this election is not a foregone conclusion. People can see that we have turned a corner, he said, adding, it's been a difficult few years, but undeniably things are in a better place now than they were earlier. But even a last-minute pep talk at a Conservative rally on Tuesday night by former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who led the party to a thumping win in 2019, seems to have done little to lift the party's mood. Conservative Cabinet Minister Landslide has said it looks like Labour is heading for an extraordinary landslide. The Labour Party has warned against taking the election result for granted, imploring its supporters not to grow complacent about polls that have given the party a solid double-digit lead since before the campaign began. Labour leader Keir Starmer has spent the 6-week campaign urging voters to take a chance on his centre-left party and vote for change. While Labour doesn't quite seem to have enthused voters with its pledges to get the sluggish economy growing, invest in infrastructure and make Britain a clean energy superpower, the election does seem to be in the bag for the party, going by forecasts. Labour has won the support of large chunks of the business community and endorsements from traditionally conservative newspapers, including the Rupert Murdoch-owned Sunday Times. As for the Tories, not only are they haunted by 14 years of anti-incumbency and public anger over the skyrocketing cost of living, handling of the economy and the issue of immigration, several Conservatives close to Rishi Sunak are also being investigated by the gambling regulator over suspicions that they used inside information to place bets on the date of the election before it was announced by the Prime Minister. This has made it a lot harder for Sunak to shake off the taint of political chaos and mismanagement that the Conservatives have faced since Boris Johnson and his staff held lockdown-breaching parties during the COVID pandemic. Johnson's successor, Liz Truss, rocked the COVID-weakened economy with a package of drastic tax cuts, making a cost of living crisis far worse, and lasted just 49 days in office. There is widespread dissatisfaction over a host of issues, from a dysfunctional public healthcare system to crumbling infrastructure. But for many voters, the lack of trust applies not just to Conservatives but to politicians in general. Reform UK party, headed by far-right leader Nigel Farage, who's often described by his critics as a rabble-rouser, is also in the race. Farage has often grabbed headlines and voters' attention with his anti-immigration rhetoric and xenophobic rhetoric as well. The centrist Liberal Democrats and environmentalist Green Party also want to sweep up disaffected voters from the bigger parties. Across the UK, voters say they want change but aren't very optimistic. Labour leader Keir Starmer has acknowledged that his biggest challenge is the mindset in some voters that everything is broken and nothing can be fixed. He said recently, there is a sense of mistrust in politics because of so many promises having been made over the last 14 years which weren't carried through. We have to reach in and turn that around. Many election experts expect a low voter turnout below the 67% recorded in 2019. Yet, this election may bring a scale of change Britain has not seen for decades if it delivers a big Labour majority and a diminished Conservative party. All right, let's now go across to my colleague Kabir Naqvi, who joins us live from London. Kabir, tell us, what is the mood like as the UK gets set to vote? Is there enthusiasm and excitement amongst voters, or do you, on the contrary, sense, some kind of disinterest and disenchantment?
Well, you know what, Neha, a very good evening first and foremost. Um, three main candidates that people are talking about here. Of course, Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. But Nigel Farage and his role, it cannot be undermined. I'll tell you what, some of those key issues that I've been speaking to people all across and a massive overseas community over here as well. We're trying to understand and take a look at what's the most important issue at this point in time. Number one, there's fatigue. It's clear cut. I've been feeling it all across. It's been 14 years of the conservative rule, and people seem to be fed up. They want some sort of change, and change has been, used in various ways across, newspapers, people throwing banters at each other. But Reform Party, the UK Reform Party, what their role is going to be, we'll have to take a look at as well. The economy, the housing crisis, the homelessness, that seems to be plaguing the streets, not just of London, but of Birmingham as well. I was traveling across the streets of Birmingham trying to assess what people want to know, what people want to see. You couldn't walk 5 minutes without somebody asking you for money. That's how bad the situation is. And they're all mostly Britishers. Now, the Labour Party manifesto promises more hefty, stricter laws on immigration, a revision of the immigration list as well. But, let's just talk to some more people here, understand what they have to say as well. I'm joined by this young, college-going boy. His name is Adil. Adil, many thanks for joining with us here. You're being streamed right back to India, back home. What's the situation at this point in time? What's the most biggest issue, especially for you students? Are you thinking about, the change in the political spectrum over here?
I mean, see, we're sick and tired of the fake notions and the fake promises that the politicians have been putting up for the past couple of years. Whether it's the Conservative, whether it's the Labour, we actually it's a big problem for us because instead of providing a stop to the cost of living crisis, the economy is such that it's providing an impetus to the cost of living crisis, and the amount of working hours that we get, they're not that great. The opportunities are less, so it's very difficult for a student from coming abroad and staying here and have nothing in hand. I mean, it's really difficult. Whether it's the Conservative Party, whether it's the Labour Party, that's not a bigger question for us. It's like any party who is willing to support us, or probably anybody who comes out from a different country over here, should get a chance to be at the parliament and should work for the welfare of the people. Because, I mean, if you talk about the Labour Party, I mean, if you talk about the Labour Party, I just feel that the manifesto suits our particular requirements a little bit better than what the Conservatives are doing right now, and that's pretty much it. I mean, it's just a big hassle for us to be out here and just living out with this little means that we are able to get for ourselves.
Right.
And a lot of students here, Neha. It's not just this one young gentleman here. A lot of students over here that do not want to go back home, Neha. They do not want to go back home, but they're scared about what's going to happen if the government does change. Taxation is going to go up the roof, but will the benefits really trickle down to the bottom? That's the big question.